You sound like you're from somewhere else.
Sydney, Australia. That's the one.
I had a feeling because my wife's from Melbourne, so I was just there.
Okay,
for 3
fantastic.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Melbourne's great, man. So you were there for 3 weeks?
Yeah, I just got back last week. We're doing the back and forth thing until we can get her a green card to work here, and so I go back. Right. I go back to Melbourne a lot. I've been to Sydney. Nice, I like it.
Cool, awesome. Yeah,
and I've seen Mad Max several times.
Good stuff.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, I've been telling Aaron he needs to make a trip out there just to watch out for those drop bears.
Those drop bears, yeah, exactly.
I brought back a shitload of Tim Tams, by the way.
Another friend that lives out there. One of my co-hosts.
I love it. It's freezing here at the moment, by the way.
Yeah, Melbourne's not doing so good right now. So
yeah, no, it's cold times.
Dave's cold.
Middle of winter.
Dave's cold. Jared's hot, and I'm just right.
It's like the Three Bears and Goldilocks.
So, anyways, let's go ahead and talk about.
He's doing Flint. He's doing Flint.
Close, but it's not Flint.
Yeah.
He does have a Flint-esque quality about him, though. I will tell you that.
All right, let's go and talk about some G.I. Joe then. And welcome to G.I. Joe, Real American Headcast. This is episode 51. I am your host, Aaron Moss, a.k.a. General Head. And joining me as somewhat usual, I have my mostly regular crew of irregulars. Let's go ahead and start with the guy closest to me in as far as proximity, as far as location-wise, Kevin.
Good to be back.
Hey, Kevin Reitzel, a.k.a. Raider Nerd. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Doing good. Glad to be here, and feels like it's been a long time.
Yes, yeah. Well, and I've been off a little bit myself, just mentally. So, yeah, my globe-trotting friend is back in California and ready to talk some G.I. Joe.
Well, apparently, since I'm married an Australian, I'm half Australian according to Australians. So there you go.
There you go.
That's correct. That is correct.
Thanks, Dave.
Speaking of Australia, since we brought that up, let's introduce our guest from last episode, Dave Finn. Hey, Dave.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for having me, and excited to be here. And sorry that I look half dead. I just got out of bed, so there you go.
Yeah, you're a day ahead of it there. So
is it a little after 7 a.m. in the morning there?
It's 6:12.
Oh, 6:12. Ouch. Okay.
He got up early to join us, so thank you very much, Dave.
Excited to be here, man. Yeah.
Dave's from the Signal podcast.
And it's Monday, not Sunday for him.
Yes, it's Monday morning.
Yes,
today, so.
Exactly. And Signal of Doom is the podcast, and yeah, excited to be here.
And let's travel back to the United States. Well, is Alabama really part of the United States? I guess. We have joining us Jared Albrecht, a.k.a. the yard sale drawer guy.
This yard sale artist. And thank you for having me back again, Aaron. Although seems like every time I do this, I've been on here several times, nobody remembers what I look like. So that's weird.
We try not to. But that's another story entirely.
I try to do a quip that ties into the comic we're going to talk about every episode. They don't always land.
No, I got it. Yeah. Quickly moving on. Oh, but no, glad. Yeah, Jared and Kevin were both gone last month, so I had to bring in some ringers, and Dave stuck around. So I think he's been hiding out in the Headcast Studios basement somewhere. But
I've been in the swamps.
He's lost in the swamps. But we're back. We're going to talk some G.I. Joe. We're going to look at issue 51, and then we're going to look at the cartoon. And I considered looking at the special missions that came out every other month, but wiser heads, thank you, Kevin, convinced me it's probably better to do that on a separate show. So I'm going to be doing that on the Bravo team every other month. So this month is going to be a regular size show with regular quips from Jared, I'm sure. And not reading the comic and, doing his wonderful artwork. So let's get started with the show. We're talking about G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero, issue 51. Cover date was September of 1986. But to buy this on sale, you would have to be in June 10th of 1986. The cover date was 75 cents. Title was called Thundermachine. Written as normal, Larry Hama. Penciler, Rod Wiggum. Inker, Andy Muschiski. Letterer, Joseph Rosen. The colorist was George Russos. The editor was Bob Harris. And the cover artist, this time it was not Zek and or Beatty.
What?
This time was some little artist, unknown artist known John Byrne.
I want this. I want the sound bite. I want this.
We can still do it if you want.
Damn it.
Another little silencer. I'll throw the sound clip in there when we're done. And the synopsis for this issue. Actually, let's jump ahead of myself. Let's talk about the cover. The cover of this issue. Pull it up. There it is. Okay, and just 1 second, fellows. Let me do a little something here real quick.
Do you have a slideshow?
No, I forgot to put together a slideshow. So I was going to throw... Oh, there we are.
All right.
Oh. Okay, I thought I could pull up just my screen, but... Screen. Extra camera, video file. Oh, share screen. Duh, right there. Okay, for the kids at home. There is the cover. We have the Thundermachine, the brand new vehicle.
You have the wrong tab up. I don't see a cover.
What do you guys see?
See your Facebook page.
I see Facebook
Something
stuff.
about Russian mail order brides increasing your something size and mortgage rates are lower.
Well, this isn't going as I planned. So, as usual, share screen. Let's do it this way then. There. Now, can you see Now, can you see the picture? Can you see the cover now?
It's just a picture of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I like it.
Do you?
You got a cool Cobra shirt on and a big smile.
Double thumbs up. Double thumbs up. You look pretty happy with yourself.
So, sometimes. One last time, then we're going to move on because...
So do we know who the picture is, Jared? Like, has it been... Am I supposed to know who that is? Because I would have guessed Flint as well from that.
He's very Flint-like. I think it'll be a little easier to tell once it's colored, but it certainly looks a lot like Flint.
It's Flint. Come on.
Now, can you see the Thundermachine?
I've often said this guy looks...
Yes.
Okay.
This guy looks a lot like Flint.
Okay.
So, the issue of cover 51.
Flint's clone?
Cheryl Hawk.
Where Aaron's trying to do a show.
I'm trying to do a show and you're all guessing Jared's artwork. The Matrix there. Okay, so here's the cover. We have the Thundermachine firing directly at us. We've got three of the original three Dreadnoks on top of the Thundermachine, waving their weapons around like maniacs, kind of like Leatherface, the original Chainsaw Massacre. Red skies at night, red skies above them. I don't know if they're part of the crisis or what's going on there, but beautiful cover, in my opinion. But we'll get to my thoughts. So there's the cover. Now I'm going to leave the cover and go back to the guys, hopefully, if I do this right. And let's get some thoughts on this. Let's go ahead and the one that everyone's talking about right now. Let's go ahead and go to Jared Albrecht, the art style jar artist guy thingamajigger.
That's me. That's what it says on my business cards.
You gotta cut that down. Maybe the art style artist.
We'll work on it. We'll workshop it. Okay.
Hey, not Zach and Beatty and Zach. So
No. Okay, so the cover 51, John Byrne. Good cover. A lot of times on the G.I. Joe podcasts that I do, whether it's here or whether it's on our Longbox Crusade network, I always find myself saying, you'll probably really like this cover if, right? And I've got it right here, so I guess it'd be more visual. You'll really like this cover if you're a fan of the Dreadnoks, right? If you love Dreadnoks, then this is the cover for you.
Oh yeah.
So it wholeheartedly resonates. Now I do like the Dreadnoks, so this is cool. I mean, they're obviously showcasing a new toy. From an artistic point of view, I think my favorite part about it is actually the color work. I mean, you can tell this was kind of done quickly by Byrne because there's not much image to it, but they rather wisely did a nice red color fade from top to bottom, which gives the illusion of more background than's actually there. But in the end, it's John Byrne drawn Dreadnoks, which is cool. I did notice in this, I read it in the IDW, and they talked about Monkey Wrench is in it, and he doesn't even appear for several more issues. So that was a little interesting. But aside from that little interesting note, artistically, I think it's pretty good. I think it was kind of a rushed cover, but it still looks nice. It still screams G.I. Joe. And if you like the Dreadnoks, this one's for you. And I'll let someone else talk.
Okay, that is Monkey Wrench. Yeah, I said the original because I thought it was Monkey Wrench at first, but he didn't show up in this issue. So that must be a miscolored torch or something. But
yeah, I was reading the notes in there. They talked about how he appeared on that cover, probably because Byrne got some new, Dreadnok art thing, and like, oh, I'm going to put this new guy in, but they ended up not using him for a while.
Yeah, I know in the cartoon he appeared in the same issue as Thrasher.
Mm-hmm. Lieutenant Falcon, that's who you're drawing.
That's correct.
I knew it. Don Johnson would be proud.
Well done.
Yeah.
Kevin. Let's go ahead and switch over to Kevin. If I can switch over to him. Oh, he's here. Kevin, what are your... I'm slowly learning how to do this crap. Kevin, what are your thoughts on the cover of G.I. Joe 51?
StreamYard's all about dragging and dropping. It's really
good.
I do like the Dreadnoks. I've always been a fan of them, and Buzzer I think's always been one of my favorites. I loved his weapon, and this is one of those issues that does kind of pop, and it does say sell toys.
It really does.
But I always liked it that when we got the Noks together, and we get introduced to new Noks in this one, which I like. But I like the image overall, but the outline. Jared, what's the term when you just do the outline? It's like the black. It's like just
like
the
silhouette?
penciling. Is it the silhouette? I guess. To me, it seems a little chunky. I guess not as defined.
Oh, you're talking about like the ink work on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
The coloring's fine. It's the outline of it. I guess I don't know. It's just a little chunky for my taste. I like a little more detail in around the edges, I guess. But it definitely sends a message. It lets you know what's going on in the comic, and it's one of those covers of a comic that, this is happening. You're going to see this, and you're going to see this cool vehicle as well. And Aaron, I wanted to share a picture of a real life version of this Thundermachine. If you could share that there. That is done from one of our fellow finest G.I. Joe costume members there. And I've seen it during the Dragon Con parade a couple of times and seen it parked and stuff. And I think it's a pretty cool version. I don't know all the details about it or who made it, but it does exist. And I always thought that was really cool. So I thought I'd bring that.
Is it actually drivable?
Yes, it is. It is actually drivable. So
that's cool.
I have another picture I can share a little bit later that's in the parade with some finest costume Dreadnought costumers. So yeah.
Is the gun operational?
In Georgia, yes. Other states, no.
It's America, so you have to ask that question.
I love it.
So very nice. I like that. Let's see real quick. And there we are. And next up, Dave. What are your thoughts on the cover of G.I. Joe 52?
51, please. Love the cover, actually. And where I am in my reading was literally just right around here. So I was looking. I reread it again last night. I think it's a great cover. I hear what Kevin is saying about the figures, but for me, I think the colorization of the skies at the top and then the cool vehicle and the gun firing. I think it really pops as a cover. I'm very impressed with it. So that's my thoughts.
Very nice. And Kevin, I see you're sharing something else with us. So let's go and bring
Yeah, if you can bring my screen down small and share it a little bit larger so people can see it. This is during Dragon Con, and you see a bunch of the Dreadnought costumers there. My friend cool. Jim Tank Dorsey there is a road pig right in the front.
Very
there.
Nice.
And so you see it in action. It's pretty cool. So
that's pretty wicked, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I see. What's her name? Zartan's
Zorana
sister. Is it Zorana? Zorana. She's on there. I saw. She was. Yeah. Cool.
It's very nice. I like that. You really need to go check out one of those things one of these days. It's really cool.
You need to buy one, man. You need to drive around in one.
I do. That would get me in trouble, but yes, I do. But
cruise the main streets.
Issue 51. Great cover. I like this one. I see where Kevin's talking about the heaviness of the inks, but I like it because I normally I like the darker, heavier colors, like on Suicide Squad on the darker books. G.I. Joe, I like more lighter colors, but on this cover, since it's the Dreadnoks, they're the bad guys. I think it works out perfect. As Jared said, I too am a big fan of the Dreadnoks. I like them. Like as Kevin said, they do introduce Thrasher and the Thundermachine. I forgot the name of the vehicle for a minute. They got the Thundermachine front and center here, introducing the new vehicle. I like it. It's very nice. Great cover. So let's go ahead and get some numbers on this. Out of 1 to 5 Yo-Jo Colas. 1 means it's horrible. 5 means you want to blow it up and hang it up on your wall like someone else has done on some of these covers. I don't know what I'm talking about there, Kevin. Jared. 1 to 5 Yo-Jo Colas. How many do you give this?
Tough one for me. I think it's worth noting that I'm 99% sure that Byrne inked himself on that. And I think Byrne's pencils always look better when like Terry Austin inks him.
Right.
So I'm going to land this one at because I think I can do that on the show. I think I'm going to do it at a 3.5.
Yes. Unlike some other show who I shot out and mentioned.
Some shows are pretty strict about that, but I will do a 3.5 on this one. I like it. I just wish Byrne had a little more time or perhaps was allowed to have an anchor on it.
Very nice. Yes. We don't mind the halvesies here. So we're not prejudiced here. So Kevin, how many Yo-Jo Colas do you give this one?
I'm with Jared. I'm going to give it a 3.5 on this. And I was thinking that before he said it. I'm like, I'm going to give it. I was going to give it a 3, and I'll give it a bump because it's previewing Monkey Wrench, which I like. I never really noticed that before. So thanks for the tidbit on that, Jared. So 3.5 for me.
Very nice. And Dave, 1 to 5 Yo-Jo Colas.
I'm actually going to give it a 4. I very much enjoyed it. I think for me it's a very dynamic cover. So I think on that basis and the cool color scheme, it's getting a 4 from me.
Very good. And I can't argue with that because myself, I'm also giving it a 4. It's a great cover. I do like the red skies going down to the oranges down to the bottom, which kind of not blends in, but it ties in with the cannon fire coming out. And I think it's just a great cover. So I'm also going to give it a 4. So not too bad though. 3.5 and 4. So very good showing. So let's go ahead and talk about the issue itself. Let's go ahead and synopsis on this issue. So the synopsis, more character introductions. We officially meet Zorana and Xandar, which is Zartan's siblings, along with Thrasher and the Thundermachine. Zorana and Xandar sneak into the pit and free Zartan, and unknowingly to anyone, Storm Shadow also sneaks into the pit. Sergeant Slaughter and Cross Country take off after the escapees on the new Havoc tank. Zorana and Xandar flee in the Swamp Copter, while the rest of the Dreadnoks ride in the Thundermachine. After playing chicken with the Havoc, Thrasher was able to lose the Joes by driving through a moving train. So that is the synopsis for G.I. Joe issue 51. And let's go ahead and start with our guest, Dave. Dave, do you have
Reporting for duty.
Do you have thoughts on this issue, my friend?
So exciting for me because I'd reached the end of 50 where Zorana was introduced.
Right.
And just so listeners know, I am somewhat of a novice to the comics. These old, whatever you call them, the original G.I. Joe comics, I'm kind of more familiar with the IDW stuff, but I've been reading from the beginning, and so I just reached the 50 where she was introduced at the very end, Zorana. And I thought, what a cool looking character. And then I read this issue. I was extremely impressed. I'm loving this classic read in general. And I love the Dreadnoks. They're some of my favorites. In fact, this covers a lot of my favorite characters. Zartan. Zorana, suddenly, she's in the equation, the Dreadnoks. I did have that question. Sergeant Slaughter, I had that question about whether Storm Shadow... I wasn't sure if Zorana and that knew that Storm Shadow had exited, because it sort of... He sneaks out of like a little hole.
Yeah, he sneaks out then.
Yeah, and I thought it was very visually very cool, but I wasn't sure if they knew. I assumed they didn't, but you've said that no one knew, so that explains that for me.
They don't really say in here, but I assume he snuck in without the Dreadnoks knowing, because again, the Dreadnoks aren't the most observant batch in town.
No, I love them actually. They remind me of my inner personality. They're crazy little bastards, and I love this issue. There's the big battle scene,
and they're from Australia. So, well, in quotes, they're from Australia. So, of course,
yeah. I read that Zorana lived in Australia for a long time or something as well. Is that correct?
I believe so, if I remember right.
Yeah. Yeah, so she gets marks for that. I'm actually going to be purchasing the classified figure. I mentioned that to you, Aaron, for my G.I. Joe family collection. And a great cover. A great issue. Am I supposed to give it a score already, or is that later?
No, we're not. We don't really score the issue. We score
just overall, very positive. Love this issue.
Yeah, very nice. And well, since I've got some notes here on my screen, let's go ahead and go to Kevin.
So Zorana stepping on some Baroness territory here by impersonating Scarlet.
You got a new person.
That more out of the comics area though, but this one was like let's highlight a bunch of vehicles and showcase them for toys and stuff. And can you bring up that one screen there that I saved there? I want to talk about the Havoc for a second. Cross country. I got a good friend of mine in Georgia who does a cosplay of cross country, who drives this thing. It looks like poor old Dial Tone and Cross Country are laying down in front. Now, are they driving while laying down? I'm trying to figure out why they have the characters laying down. I never questioned that back in the day, but I am now. That is weird. Hawk looks like he's up there just blasting away. And I think that's Life Ticket in the little hover vehicle that leaves. Interesting, cool looking vehicle, but I never understood the part about laying down while driving.
I believe I'm assuming one's driving and one's operating the cannons in the front.
Sure, but they're laying down. That's just weird.
I agree that it's a weird design to have them.
But I love seeing it in this issue, and I was always a fan of them highlighting the vehicles. And I love how they go back and forth with the vehicles in this, and we got introductions to a few of these guys as well. And I love the fact Cross Country says, "Hillbilly, hillbilly." I'm no hillbilly. I'm a redneck and proud of it. That made me laugh. I thought that was good. So
I love that line myself.
Yeah, and it seems like the Cobras, man, slash Dreadnoks, they're just in and out of that G.I. Joe pit, as easy as can be.
Oh yeah,
easy to get down there. Now we got a ninja down there.
We'll get more about next issue.
Yeah,
very good. And Falcon, Jared. Did you read this?
I didn't read it, but if I did, it would probably have been pretty good. From what I'm picking up, there's been like a lot of vehicles and Dreadnoks. Sounds like it was awesome. Kind of wish I'd read it.
All right.
No, my favorite thing about it, I alluded to it at the beginning, was the introduction of Xandar and how he's almost mad that no one remembers him whenever he does something. And I thought that was neat because they planted that joke at the beginning and then they paid it off at the end where he's a little bit more proud of it. Other than that, I mean, you guys this is a huge advertisement issue. And I had forgotten about the little like swamp helicopter thing until I saw it in here. I was like, oh, that thing is so cool. I'd forgotten about that thing. And I thought it was neat that Kevin's boy Shipwreck got a cool moment taking it down by doing a quick sailor's knot. Ahoy there, Shipwreck. Good work. So, I mean, it has a lot of action, but clearly this was one where they were like, Larry, look, we got a new line of toys. And we need you to pack as many toys in here as you can. But, he did it in true Larry style. And I think the really coolest Larry moment is, it's already been brought up, but sort of the Storm Shadow infiltration. What a cool little seed to plant and just kind of leave it for the next one. So I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said, but I think we've all found the major themes of this issue.
Yes. And myself, I first picked this one up. I got this in a 3-pack at local Kmart's.
Second printing, third printing,
Lovely.
third printing.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was a second print, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was a second.
74th printing.
This isn't the one I got then, but it was after I picked up issue 58, which was my first issue I bought. It was at Kmart, and I saw that on the outside covers they had this, and it was issue 53, and the other side was issue 55, Unmaskings. And then Maskings, which we'll talk about in a few months down the road, was the main reason I got it. But again, this one here, I remember specifically was in that issue, and I remember reading it like this before I hadn't read 50 yet. I didn't know who a lot of these characters were. I knew them from the cartoon, but I wasn't sure what their stats in the comic. And so, so I thought this was a great issue. Like you guys said, we get some more characters introduced in here. And I do like the way, Hasbro gives Larry, a list. Well, here's the new figures, the new vehicles, make them work. And he makes them work for the most part. Like I say, he never did have to introduce Cobra Law. I'd be interested to see how he got away with that one, but that's not for this issue. But
hey, Hama, we need you for this movie. No, man.
Hard pass.
Hard pass.
Talk to Larry at the convention at some point. Maybe they can find out how he got away, because like he had to use almost everything else. But yeah, the Dreadnought or the Cobra Law, he was able to skip somehow. So if someone can find out how he did that, I'd curious to know. But like it was Jared said, I wasn't listening to him, so I'm not sure. They do set up at the beginning when they introduce Xandar that no one remembers him, and at the very end, when Zartan's like, Xandar, you have no shame. Why should I? Nobody ever remembers me. So yeah, just very much a call back to that. Like Jared said, he's kind of proud of the fact that he can pull this off. And they mentioned during the issue also when they're infiltrating the pit, Zoran's like, hey, no one can remember you anyway, so don't worry about it. Like when they're infiltrating the pit and they're leaving, and I think it was Xandar was talking to Tollbooth, and he's like, all right, we're taking this prisoner out, and someone, I don't know who his wish to him, Tollbooth. So he knows.
Yeah.
Talking.
I've got a question. Can Xandar blend into things like the couch, or do they just not notice him?
My understanding is, correct if I'm wrong, guys, no one really just notices him.
Right. Okay.
He's not blending in. He just
that's the joke, is that he can't quite do what the others do, but they just don't notice him.
Yeah.
Right. So he's kind of almost like anonymous. Like they just sort of vaguely remember him as just this really normal, nondescript guy.
Reminds me of that one character in the movie Mystery Man where he can turn invisible, but only when no one's watching him.
That's gold.
I love that movie. Great movie. But yeah, no, that's his shtick. Is is in a lineup, or if you're describing him to the plays, what did the guy look like? Average?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, he's not really describable. So
I aspire to be that average one day.
But no, that is a great concept, great character. I mean, they've all got their Zartan uses his technology to blend into things. Zarana uses disguises, and Xandar's just naturally. Is there someone else here? Yeah, just people didn't forget about him. But I do like the fight as they're going through that manufacturing plant, and they're blasting their way through, and they're going side by side, and all their guns are aiming at the front, so they can't really shoot each other at this point. So there's racing, and then they have the one of my favorite parts is when they're playing chicken out in the swamps, going along that narrow little road under the water, and they Thrasher tilts the Thundermachine so it knocks off Slaughter's hat.
Yep.
I thought that was great. But no, a great issue. I love this one. So, give me a sec. Go back to the regular screen. I also wanted to mention from the letter column a couple of things. In the letter column, they mentioned that the earlier adventures will be reprinted soon in the digests. As I've talked about previously, that's where I read a lot of the earlier issues before I actually bought them. Is I picked up a lot of the digests when they came out. I said by the time I didn't get into G.I. Joe until like almost a year after this. So the digest already out, so I picked a bunch of them up and reading them to get the backstories on a lot of this.
Were they in regular size?
No, they were small, like about yay big.
Okay, right, yeah.
Like you've seen the DC digest used to have, about that size.
Don't the kids today have it easy? Seriously, like if you wanted to, you could just go back and just read it so easily. We had to battle for it in supermarkets and news agents and all sorts of places.
Like we had to get up at a certain time on a Saturday if we wanted to see our cartoons, right? Like, and if you missed it, man. Bummer.
You know? I reckon if I'd been a kid today, are you guys familiar with the X-Men character Mojo?
Yes.
You know, who's just like connected permanently to all the different the TVs and stuff. That would be me as a teenager now with all the access to the streaming. I'd be sitting there just surrounded by screens and, you know, monitoring 1,000 things at once from past, present, and possibly future.
I'm probably working on that. I already got the bottom. I'm just working on getting all of them.
I'm one of those few people who sees Mojo as an aspirational character.
Yeah.
Someday.
I never got Mojo's body type. Now I'm just working on getting all the cameras around. Also, for moving on from my deficits, the letter column, there was also someone was talking about the lack of female Cobras. And the editor mentioned that there will be a new female Cobra coming up in the next few issues.
Well, I mean, Zarana's not technically Cobra, but she's close.
But she's in this issue, so I'm not sure if they're referring to Zarana.
What about Baroness?
I'm not thinking about
Baroness.
Well, it's more than the Baroness. That's what. I just thought it was cool that girls actually reading G.I. Joe.
Yeah. But Baroness would keep all the girls in line. Can you imagine? I bet you she'd be quite strict, you know, with who gets access to who.
Yeah, in fact, they mentioned that this is Dawn Bantel, I believe it is, from Sykes MD.
I've got a question, and forgive my ignorance, guys. I'm in Australia. We weren't quite as brainwashed by the G.I. Joe in the 80s.
You missed out, brother. You missed out.
No, I totally agree. I had a friend who was heavily into it and heavily into the military, and I used to do a lot of military maneuvers with him out there in the bush and stuff. Like we were constantly fighting, reliving Vietnam and World War II and stuff. But here's my question: in the modern comics, or you know, from about 2008 or so, where Mike Costa was doing with Chuck and Larry and that, Baroness had it was like a lookalike cousin or something. If you remember, I was wondering if she turns up in the originals as well. Sort of like she's looks like Baroness, and a lot of people think she's Baroness, but she's kind of used as like a decoy. Are you familiar with the character?
I don't remember that now.
That is news to me.
So.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a cool character. She's a bit more. She has an affair. She lures in. You know, is his name Chuckles? Is that his name?
Undercover.
the undercover guy.
Yeah,
So she lures him into Cobra, but she's like obviously fully Cobra, and she's like Baroness's cousin or something.
Oh, I remember reading some of that. Yeah.
It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
It was
I was just wondering. Yeah.
No, that
I was
does
just
ring
wondering if there was any basis in the original comics for that.
No, nothing that I recall.
Okay. Well,
Back to Kevin talking about girls reading the comics. This Dawn gal mentions that she used to be embarrassed by being one of two girls who buys GI Joe comic books.
And she should be proud. She should be proud.
And
there was one in that mailbag I did want to mention. I don't remember the guy's name, but he mentioned how he lived in a small town, and he bought his GI Joe comics on in one of the little stores on the comic spindle rack, and that there was some GI Joes they didn't carry there, like maybe the special missions, or maybe it was the yearbook or something like that, And I remember that because that's how I found G.I. Joe #1 was at a 7-Eleven at the G.I. Joe comic spindle rack. And so I was kind of feeling for that guy. And they replied saying, check on comic subscriptions and have them mailed to you, that type of thing. But I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was Doug Klein.
Yeah. Yeah, man, the distribution was spotty even in the 80s. Like, I remember when I first got into reading comics, primarily Marvel, it was just before I discovered comic stores, and so you were relying on the newsagent, and they certainly didn't get everything, or they would only get a few of them,
I think comic stores really weren't a thing in the 70s. They were rare. I think they started to become a thing in the 80s because, our comic store came out of a bookstore, because the local non-chain store and Andromeda bookstore was, home operated, and they started carrying comics because people were asking for it from what I heard. But yeah, comic stores really weren't a thing, and a lot of people didn't have them depending on where they lived. So yeah, then they started popping up everywhere when I think comics in the 80s really started taking off.
I think right around the mid-80s is when the real explosion happened, but I'm sure in the States by the early 80s, and then by the mid-80s there were lots of them,
Yeah. I read some book, I think it was on Marvel, and he talked about that it was like the late 70s, early 80s is when comic books, they finally started, people realized, hey, someone want these back issues.
I was going to say, one of my favorite memories as a kid, I remember walking down into my first comic store, and I walked down and I saw all the comics on the walls, and just hundreds of them, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, I was only young, and I remember thinking that they would have had every comic from the first issue. So, like, Avengers, whatever, and I was like, wow, imagine, like, reading from 1 all the way through to, like, whatever they were up to. But it blew my mind, the sheer volume, Yeah.
Well, I'm a late bloomer as far as comics. I didn't get into buying comics until I was like 17, late 80s. So by the time I got into it, I picked up these G.I. Joes, the first ones off the rack, and there was comic shops around. So I started going to comic shops to find the back issues. And that's what picking it. I'd see other, the Spider-Man, it was 314, this Christmas cover. I picked that one up, and that looks interesting. I said this one, pretty soon, within months, I was buying almost every DC Marvel out there. Again, I have an addiction. So, but yeah, so
it's great, man. Like, God bless them, because I think like they're so formative for young adults and teenagers and stuff, and help reading habits so much as well.
Yes, very much so. What?
One of these days, I'm going to have to read some of these. It sounds pretty.
Yeah. You just look at the pretty pictures and just scroll on.
You know what? If you're going to start reading comics, probably the easiest one to get into is issue 21. Pat, something or another.
Yeah, I think Pat wants to talk about that.
And that one there is pretty easy for you to read. So I know you. That's probably
true. That is true.
That's funny.
Okay, I'm doing consulting Jared for now. We'll more later on.
Certainly.
Next section I want to bring up is the Real American Hero. Actually, before I go there, Kevin, did you want to talk about some of the ads or something in this book?
Yeah, I did. Okay, if we're gonna do the ads, let me bring that up in a second here because there's one I just thought was kind of interesting. Give me a second here. I will pop that up. It's this one. Yeah, this one right here.
Okay.
If you could go ahead and share that and make it a little bit bigger there, maybe. I don't know if you can or not, but yeah. So I thought this was interesting, especially in today's age of AI. So there's this ad here that says, "Meet the AI gang, 5 computer whiz kids of the 1990s." Keep in mind, This is a 1980s comic issue that came out in, where is it? Where's the date this one came out? September of 1986. It says 5 computer whiz kids in the 1990s whose favorite game is solving crime. AI may mean artificial intelligence, but these kids have plenty of the real thing. They put it to good use when sabotage threatens their scientist parents' thinking computer project. These computers and brain power, they keep the project safe and discover the enemy before it's too late. Get in on the action. See if you can unravel the clues to the villain's identity before the gang does. Read all of the books in the series and look for details on the great AI gang contest at your local bookstore. And if you've been living under a rock recently, the writer strike in Hollywood is currently going on as of this recording, and AI is on top of the news because AI might be using a lot more of soon, and a lot of people are against that because of AI writing scripts and doing art and stuff like that. So I thought that was very interesting coming across this weird little ad about the AI gang.
Clearly, Skynet has embedded in the past and put this into the comic book.
Yeah. I'm just like,
obvious.
Wait a minute, they're writing a comic. Unless the 1990s is a misprint, they met 80s. I just thought that was weird because
maybe they're doing like in 10 years time the AI will be a lot bigger than. Is it a comic or is it books? What is it?
I don't know. It's I'm guessing it's a comic. I don't know.
Books.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking picture as well. It's a good ad.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
We're talking. I'm looking it up now to see. It is
AI gang.
I'm curious. Yeah, it was a book.
Are they bringing their modems into that cave, or what are they doing? Like,
it's a series of children. It's a AI gang series. It's a children's series written by Bruce Coville in the 80s, and later revised and reissued in the 90s. Originating as a package series in which Coville would write books 1 and 4. Then another author, Jim Lawrence, read books 2 and 3.
Yeah, and I'm seeing some book covers here. Yeah, interesting
times.
Both editions tells the story of 5 genius kids. Redheaded.
Hey, Jared, can you be quiet, please? You're talking too much, man.
Listen, I'm trying to concentrate. If you guys could shut up over there.
You know what I did read today? I don't know if you guys have. Well, it doesn't really matter. But there's a 2000 AD character called Rogue Trooper, and the AI had spat out like a AI version. But apparently, there's according to what I read, there's so much AI art out now. The AI is using other AI art to formulate its own stuff as well.
If you watch the intro to the new Disney Marvel series Secret Invasion, the opening intro section, the animated is done by AI.
And there was some controversy of some sort, wasn't there, about that? I we covered it on the show. Some people, surprise, surprise, it's the internet. Some people got upset.
What?
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but some people were calling for the downfall of Marvel and the heads of the executives and stuff. But my co-host made a good comment. He said the problem is the people they're fighting the future. Like, I don't think I'm smart enough to sometimes distinguish what's AI art and not. Like, I really
Aaron, make Dave bigger there.
Oh,
there you go.
I was just gonna say, I could foresee a time period where they would put out, say, a Wolverine comic, and the AI was good enough that I would just read it and not think twice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think, oh, this isn't done by a human. I would have no idea. You know, like, sometimes it's obvious, but I imagine the AI will get so clever that you will simply not know. You know?
Right.
That's my prediction. And I blame the AI gang for that.
Oh, they were so smart with their computers.
It's not a good thing for writers, but you know.
Well, it definitely comes up a lot in the art circles that I run in. You know, AI art, is it? You know, is it the future? Maybe it is. Maybe all us artists will be out of a job. But one of the funnier things I saw was people say, well, AI will only give you, you know, what you want if you give it clear direction. And as every professional artist knows, no human being has ever done that in the history of the world.
Yes.
So yeah, there is a bit of that. But yeah, no, it's definitely the talk of the town in the art community. And you know, I don't know how I feel about it. I just draw my pictures, and as long as people buy them, I'm cool. But we'll see what happens. You know, I don't know.
One day they may stop buying them.
Maybe I got to find some other way to put food on the table.
I think the biggest mystery is where you keep all that stuff you get from thrift stores, man. I don't know where you put that stuff. Man.
I have a 24-foot by 24-foot building behind.
Following you on Twitter, I'm like, first, where the hell is he putting that? I mean, I guess I should talk, right?
You've got a fair bit there yourself, yeah.
The secret is I flip about half of it on eBay because I need the hobby to pay for itself. The other half, I have a 24-foot by 24-foot building out back.
Cool.
My last comment on myself is I do like reading the old issues because they have like I'm going to hold it up the checklist, and you get kind of a snapshot of what books can sell at the same time. I mean, we get that on the internet, but I do like, you know, looking at here, you can see, you know, Web of Spider-Man 18, West Coast Avengers number 12, or some of the books that were on sale at this time. So it just gives you kind of a snapshot of when this took place in relation to other books. So I think that was nice. So let's go ahead and, that's why we're in the process of doing something for you. Didn't move on. The Real American Hero. This is the Joe or Cobra that you think deserves extra special recognition for doing something in this issue, or just that you want to bring a spotlight to. I'm going to start it off this time, and I'm going to give mine to Cross Country. Again,
is that for laying down while driving?
No, yeah, for laying down while driving. For one reason I brought, you know, it was mentioned earlier when he gets upset. I think it was Kevin mentioned. I'm not a, what did he say then? Hillbilly. I'm no hillbilly. I'm a redneck. Proud of. He throws his around. Yeah, and just playing chicken, havoc, and you know, not dodging. Couldn't really do very much, but the fact that he did play chicken against the havoc, I think Cross Country. That plus, as Kevin mentioned, laying down while driving. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to be tough to do. I mean, you know, sometimes I have a problem sitting up.
I feel like I should interject here because this was a very real military concept in the 80s. They were looking at like
seriously?
Yes, they're looking at ergonomic and comfort more than ever.
Okay, is this fall in line with those chairs that had no backs and you would like put your knees on them underneath it? They were like sold for a hot minute and they ended up in thrift stores 10 years later.
I can't speak to that, but like I remember certain tanks that were developed in the 80s, instead of having the typical like driver's chair, they had a much more relaxed, laid back, almost like a beach chair format. They were definitely looking at driver comfort. And this was something they played with, was like the sort of forward leaning. In fact, I think you see Batman do it in the Christian Bale Batman movies, like when he goes under the little pod thing.
Yes.
Is a very real military consideration. Now, I can't think of any true military vehicles that went that route, but I do remember it sort of like being talked about. And G.I. Joe was all about sort of picking up those things. So there is a slight basis in truth to it.
I have a question. So would the braking be kind of by the hand? It wouldn't be by.
I would imagine that everything is there at the hand control level. Yeah,
that is actually very Christian Bale, because doesn't that sort of thing turn into a cycle at times or something? Or am I thinking of the other Batman movie? But like it sort of can detach and become a cycle.
Yeah, it did. He did have a pod that detached from it. That's true.
It's actually pretty fucking cool when I think about it. Like, and I want one. Aaron, can you get me one of those, please?
I'm working on that. Get me a
Since I live in Alabama, we have dealers that sell these things.
I saw the Flash movie the other day, and I tell you what. Say what you like about the movie, but the stuff with Batman and the shit he had going on at the start of that movie made me want to buy about 14 Hot Toys. You know, covering the whole thing.
Yeah, I started watching it and need to finish it, but I'm enjoying it so far. I just don't like Ezra Miller as the Flash.
Oh, he's a total piece of scum. But Affleck and specifically the stuff Batman had doing was pretty cool, and it was all like vehicle wise. It reminds me of what Jared was just saying. Yeah.
But back to the real American hero for this issue. I gave mine to Cross Country. Since I've got you up on the screen, Jared, the soon to be extinct yard sale artist.
Yes, count down the days, man.
IA takes over and does your job.
I know.
I'm sure I can find an IA that can draw and give me some military authenticity.
I know, right? Like, I'm trying to do these drawings. I do the book page sketch thing just to throw off AI. Like, they're like, what is he doing? You know? But no, for Real American Hero, I'm gonna give it to Storm Shadow, because I kind of tend to give mine to, like, after I finish the book and I'm away for it for an hour or so. Like, what am I still thinking about? And I'm still thinking about that infiltration by Storm Shadow. So I'm gonna give it to him.
Two panel scene, very good. Hey, right on. Let's go ahead and go to our guest, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, I've really got two in mind. One is Zorana, because I think she's the best, and I love her constant comments about cash, about how she wants to almost expense it and stuff. So she's up there, but I'm actually going to give it to her brother, who I think plays a very under-acknowledged role in this issue, and in the end actually helps them get away with it. And what's his name?
So you can't remember him.
Yeah, is it
Xandar?
What is it? Xandar, yeah. I'm giving it to Xandar, who I think it's almost like if he was in a football team or something, he's the under-acknowledged worker, and his stats would be really good, but you almost wouldn't have realised he was there. I'm giving it to Xandar, because I don't feel he probably gets a lot of wins.
You mean like a kicker?
Yeah, like a kicker. Exactly. Under-acknowledged and workhorse of the team.
Very nice. And speaking for the kickers of the team, Kevin, who's your real American hero, buddy?
I'm going to give it to, and Jared touched on it earlier, I'm going to give it to Shipwreck, because he pops out of the water for like one panel. And nice. What's the name of the little helicopter that Xandar and Zorana stole? What's that called?
Copter. Swamp copter?
Swamp copter? Yeah, I think.
Is that what it was called, the toy?
That doesn't sound right. That's what they refer to it as, but...
Was that a toy? I thought that was a toy.
It was.
They steal it from the G.I. Joe headquarters there, so that's why I was curious. But Shipwreck's like, go for it, Alpine! And Alpine shoots the thing, and then Shipwreck ties it off to the Mauler, and then tips it over, and then he's out. He's done.
Yeah.
He did the job. He's out. So I just thought it was funny. Shipwreck's a water guy. He pops out of the water. Seeing Alpine come out of the water was kind of weird, but go Alpine. So yeah, Shipwreck.
So you need a good knot tied, do ya?
Yeah.
Well, guess who's here?
He basically just comes on as a sub, does a fantastic thing, and then subs out again. That's
I'll
it.
snub this line for something relatively immobile.
And it was actually called the Dreadnought Swamp Fire.
Swamp Fire. Okay, takes down the Swamp Fire with the line. I love it.
That was my nickname.
That's very taking down the AT-AT type of thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, they didn't steal that from the Joes. They took it in.
Or more like when the Ewoks did that to the speeder bike and tossed the lasso around it, and it went around the tree and exploded.
Yes. And a great scene.
Yeah, the Swamp Fire first shows up on page 3 with Thrasher. He rebuilt it in the swamp there. But I was just looking at it. I don't think they refer to it by the name. They just call it the Swamp Copter. But anyways, Okay, so that was our Soldier of the Month. All good choices. I like them all. Then let's move on to the page of art. This is a page of art out of the book that if you could choose any page to get framed and hang on your wall, maybe get the artist to sign, which page would it be? I am going to move this. There you go. Kevin, since I've got it pulled up here in the stream already.
Yeah, go ahead and make that bigger.
Don't you
right there. This is when they're already been through the factory, and I like that you see both the Havoc and of course the Thundermachine just crashing through the chain link fence, and they're rat-a-tat-tatting at him there because they're so they're using their small arms fire at this point. I think that's just a great scene. It feels very Fast and Furious. So that is my pick for art.
Very nice.
Wouldn't you love to see that in one of the movies, like them replay that kind of a scene?
Oh yeah, I'd love to see. Well, I know where they can find a real life Havoc, but Thundermachine. But yeah, that'd be nice to see something like that in a movie. I'd love to see
awesome.
I'd love to see Dreadnoks in a GI Joe movie. What the hell?
Me too.
Come on.
Amen.
I can't believe that we haven't. I know we've had movies, but I feel they've gotten sort of really bad. But I just feel that this is a franchise that really, really could excel if they really dove into it. You know, there's so much there.
Yeah.
And so many iconic vehicles as well, which I think they need to lean into.
Yes. That's what we've talked about before. They've got hundreds of years of, or it seems like, they got crap of material already written by Larry. All they need to do, as we've talked, guys, me and I think it was Chad or somebody we talked about over on the Bravo team about the Snake Eyes movie.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Several,
I like how you put that in quotation.
Yes. I have to refer to Snake Eyes because, that's not Snake Eyes.
Well, I've got a question. In the G.I. Joe movie, and I'm no expert on them, has a Cobra Rattler even been on screen in any of the films?
Yeah.
I don't think so. No.
But see, that is just crazy to me. You should have had a Trouble Bubble and a Rattler.
Oh yes.
I think they're so distinctive, and I think a lot of people who only know the very surface of G.I. Joe would love that kind of stuff because they're visually very striking.
The closest thing we got to a really cool vehicle was in G.I. Joe Retaliation was those HISS tanks.
Yeah, so I was gonna say.
A little more modernized, but you could definitely tell they were designed after the HISS tanks.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
And in my mind, that's probably the best of the movies.
Yeah, definitely. That's the best G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah.
It's the best G.I. Joe movie next to Megaforce. So.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, I hear a lot of people give Retaliation crap, but I think that's been the closest.
Tell me their names and addresses, and I'll set them straight.
Yeah. It's the best of a bad bunch. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any of them are fantastic, but I think it's the best one that they've done. Yeah.
I thought it was the closest to what we got in the comic. I mean, Cobra had the actual Cobra style helmet and
ninjas. Come on.
Yeah.
Ninja.
No, it's pretty good. I've seen them all in cinemas.
I didn't like that Firefly took his mask off so much, but I did like that they had Firefly and Ray Stevenson. R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
I thought he did a good job. I didn't like the fact that they want to keep taking his mask off. It's not Firefly, but that's another gripe entirely. So let's go ahead and move on. Page of art. Solo layout. We've got you, Jared. Do you have a favorite page of art?
I don't even have this issue, and I've never read it. But if I had to guess, I'd say.
Okay, moving on.
I like page 1 actually. I thought page 1 was really cool. It had like all the Dreadnoks and Storm Shadow hanging out. I think it was the gas station. I literally don't have it in front of me right now, but I think it was the gas station. Yeah, I like that. I'm like, oh, all these Dreadnoks, they're fun, and there's Storm Shadow too, hanging out at the gas station. Why not? And it hasn't come up yet. I was counting on Kevin because it's not usually my job, but Zorana, So there you
Hot.
go.
100% hot. Are you kidding?
Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
Hot.
and feisty, man. Very feisty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to like there. I'll just leave it at that.
You don't get a lot in this book of Zorana showing how hot she is, except for that was a nice one. But that first page you were showing, where you get a full body shot of her, it's very nice. It shows how hot she is. Yes.
I mean, we all admit this is a comic book character, and it's silly.
Is it?
But we live in the silly world, and
up here it's not.
I don't admit that. I don't admit that at all. I think I could meet her walking down the street.
Whoa. Why are you folding the cover back there?
I like his outfit.
What are you, Pat?
Oh
Yes.
my god!
What are you?
Call me Brad.
Brad? Are you Brad? Come on, man. Show some respect.
Again, I want to watch Kevin wig out. Fold the cover back.
God.
I'm sorry.
God
I
dang.
get so amped about it. I love it.
I'm just end the show in my life here. I'm sorry, Kevin. Please forgive me. All right. Well, this has been the final episode of G.I. Joe Real American Headcast. James. And Dave, do you have a
Yes.
panel?
Well, I'm kind of sad because I thought my Thunder was not going to get stolen, but it has. I have a definite. It's the first page as well. I very much when I open, because you've got to realize I only read 50 a few weeks ago, and when Zorana appeared at the end of 50, I was like, wow, this is a cool character, and I did know she was a character from the classified figures and stuff, but seeing her and then seeing that first page with the Dreadnoks and Storm Shadow there, I just think it's a really nice piece of artwork, and to me, so much better than a lot of the artwork you see in today's Marvel comics. It was if I owned this piece of art, I would want all the word balloons out,
Right.
just because I think as a piece of artwork, it's nice. Yeah, it's a number one for me. I think we're talking about Zorana. The thing with her is she's hot, but she's dangerous and she's feisty. She's a bad girl through and through.
Even hotter.
No, and I'm saying that. Yeah, she's gonna probably kill you, take all your money. So enjoy it while it lasts.
At least
it won't last long.
Like Zinnia on a top from GoldenEye. If anybody's a Bond fan like me, that's exactly who she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, great character. Yeah, fantastic piece of art.
Did you say art?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Fantastic piece of art.
Fantastic. Oh, yeah. Also, a nice piece of ass, but fantastic piece of art.
I like this guy. Aaron.
That's why I had him on. Dave's a great guy. I enjoy the work he's giving.
I remember when I was the one step too far guy.
I'm keeping it PG for Aaron's show. Aren't I, Aaron?
Right. Yes. I told you, Jared, I'm working slowly replacing you. AI's going to come in our...
Brad's gone now, and now I'm next.
Imagine if it's just AI podcast, so we're all just loving it. We're just loving it. We're just like, this is great stuff. Like, who needs these humans? These pesky humans.
And for my page, there's a couple to choose from. I think I'm going to go with page 7. I finally opted with. There's a couple to choose from, but this one I like. Mainly for that last panel there, as we talked about previously, with cross country, throwing his helmet and his glasses down to the ground. Just, I'm no hillbilly. I'm a redneck.
Hey, share the page. I got it set up for you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool.
Thank you, sir. There we go. So, yeah, great page. I like I say, mainly for that last panel is just fantastic. It makes me laugh every time I see it.
Yeah, it's good.
So, let me go ahead and go back to us. There we are. So, let me get to my notes real quick. I do have notes. There we are. Okay, that was a page of art. So at this point, I do the post box the pit. We'll put that in later.
For the record, I only had one copy of this issue, so I had to be careful with it. Normally I have 2 of each one.
Yeah, I've got one.
Did you buy that back in the 80s, Kevin, or later?
I think I did, yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive, and you've kept your comic for that long.
Yeah.
That's impressive, man.
Yeah, there's a few I had to replace, but this one, once I reached like the 40s, I was definitely having the original ones because I started collecting when issue 1 came out, and then 2 never came out, and then they got kind of, some of them got kind of beat up, and when you were learning how to take care of your comics,
Sure. Oh God, yeah. I'd hate to think about what condition my comics from the
especially
80s
when
would be.
people bend the cover all the way back when they're showing it on camera.
I wasn't holding it.
That's a certain there's a certain place in hell for people like that.
Yes.
But like back in the 80s, they would have been in like your school bags and all sorts. Like I remember my comics. They weren't you weren't thinking long term. You were thinking day to day, man. You were thinking hour to hour.
At least I never pulled a pin in my back pocket like some people used to on the show do.
Oh, the old back pocket trick. You see that a lot.
Brad has admitted to that on the show.
I
get annoyed when he even does that with a sports almanac in Back to the Future. Like, come on, man, really?
Well, I mean, you've got to think about it. Like, the thing is, they were considered mass consumable entertainment. Like at the time, like no one was thinking when you bought a comic in the 80s, we'd be discussing in 2023.
True story, yes.
So, it's like, speaking of G.I. Joe, in the war, wasn't it like massive for the servicemen and stuff to have comics and everything? Like, yeah.
Oh, big time. That goes back to the
World way War back.
II.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I've written some articles about that for some military magazines, but yeah, comics and soldiers go hand in hand for almost 100 years now.
Yeah, in fact, I usually have an ad on my show for some comics and military thing. I forget what it's called. I don't think anyone on the show cares about it, but
that's cool.
I like it, and so does Dave. And actually, I know Kevin's a military aficionado because whenever I can't remember the name of a pistol or a rifle, he's got my back every time.
Not say that.
Well, I mean,
he's not so good at the whole laying down driving vehicles thing.
Yeah, what the hell? Come on, Jesus.
I mean, but reading G.I. Joe, the tie between military and comic is just perfect. So you know what you should have on your show, Aaron? Army enlistment ads. Think about stuff like that. I'm thinking of ideas for you, man.
There you go. Man.
I won't even lie. That's why 90% of why I ended up with a military career. I mean,
I've talked about.
It's funny. It's funny too because when you watch a lot of the John Wick films, he does that trick with that one-handed chamber check where he slides it back to see if there's a bullet in chamber. And I'm like, yeah, the Softmaster did that back in G.I. Joe issue 27.
Love it.
Yeah, I've talked to several people that's gotten in the military because of G.I. Joe. So.
Yeah.
I believe it, man. I totally believe it. Yeah.
There's a friend of mine in Canada who's a big G.I. Joe fan, and he was a huge fan of Steeler, and he became a tank driver. Yeah.
Love it.
Chad, who I've had over.
It could go the other way. You could go Cobra, and you become like a massive terrorist. And yeah, you took the wrong message. You know what I mean?
Wrong message.
I would love to talk to some terrorists that actually did get started because of Cobra. That'd be funny to do.
But if the organization had a Baroness in it, I'd be like, maybe.
Sign me up.
She would have slid me across the line for sure. Yeah, like why not?
For anyone out there listening, if you're part of a terrorist organization that got started or you joined that organization because of Cobra, let me know. I would love to have you on the show.
Reach out to Aaron.
Reach out.
If you are part of a terrorist organization, reach out to Aaron or the FBI.
That's hilarious.
I'd love to talk to you. But anyway, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and I'm going to probably play that. Crap, what's the name of that promo? Comics for vets or comics for... Help me out, Jared.
That's a good question. I made the dang thing, and I'm trying to remember what we called it.
I referred to you earlier. I was hoping you would actually correct me and give me the name of it.
Oh, geez. What did we call that promo? It was...
you guys still doing that, right?
SupportOurTroops.org. Yeah, you can send comics to supportourtroops.org, and they will send them to soldiers downrange. Comics for Courage. It's called Comics for Courage.
Thank you. Comics for Courage.
Cool.
Lou, Lieutenant Falcon there looks like he just saw his black Ferrari get destroyed.
You know, I think I actually, because I watch actual episodes to find cool images. I think this is from the movie, and I think it's at his court-martial hearing. So he's a little salty.
I was making a Miami Vice reference, by the way.
Oh, with the Don Johnson.
Don Johnson, yeah.
Because they connect.
Yeah.
I love it.
Hey, that's much better than the figure that Hasbro has.
Oh gosh, that figure was wonky.
I'd pre-ordered it, and then I saw people that actually had it, and I canceled my pre-order. Because that face was atrocious. But we're gonna play a few promos. One of them is that the comics for I just forgot the name of it already, and we're back to talk about the cartoon.
Comics for Courage.
Oh, I can't remember that. Looking nice there, Jared. Looking nice.
Yeah, it looks really good,
Thank
man.
you,
I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I guess that's a little thing called talent and training, which I don't have, you know?
I agree. And Jared always love what he does on here.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I've got a question. How are you guys on your classifieds? Are you collecting? Because I'm a big... I've just ordered a bunch.
Mine is very sporadic. I was trying to collect up through 20, like all of them, and then they just got expensive. And then when they stopped doing the see-through packaging, I'm like, I'm out until I get regular packaging back. So,
and they're supposed to be coming back for regular packaging.
Yeah. But I am seriously considering that Dragonfly before the end. That'll be my first. That'll be my first HasLab.
That's a HasLab, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm sporadic. I only get the ones I really like because there's so many, you know. But there are some good ones. I saw one the other day.
I ordered 2 shipwrecks. I'm waiting for those to come.
Yeah.
So.
I saw one the other day that was what did I get? I got Outback as I want to say Tiger Force.
Right, Tiger Force Outback,
which looked really good. And then I saw a Snake Eyes that was like desert camo or something.
That would made me cringe. I didn't want to do that one.
Camo, the new one that's out. Yeah.
Wow. See, but you've got to understand, I'm a complete slut who doesn't really have any kind of sort of standards, and so I was like, wow, that looks really cool. But I've got quite a few. I've actually got quite a few Cobras as well. I got Baroness with the cycle and a few other ones. Yeah, there's some good ones, man. Like, I think they're doing a great job.
I HasLabbed the Sky Striker, and then I HasLabbed the Dragonfly because that's based off the AH-1 Cobra. That's what my father flew. And I never had that one as a kid. So that was like my opportunity to buy the childhood real quick.
And how much are they? Like when you how much are we talking? Like, is it like 500 US or less?
I think
or more?
HasLab in the helicopter with taxes and fees and everything was just over 300 US.
Okay. It's not too bad, actually.
It's not awful.
Yeah.
My shoulder I got.
Hey, Dave, I wanted to ask you, when I was in Australia, I had a friend of mine pick up one of these. Because I think they're limited, and I didn't see them at JB when I was there. But a friend of mine picked me up the original 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Stinkovision version.
Cool.
By Umbrella. Have you seen this?
I haven't. I love the Turtles, but
you open it up, right? And it's multi-region. It's multi-region, by the way.
The first movie?
Yeah, it's the first movie. But you open it up, right? And then it's got this card, and you scratch and sniff certain smells during certain parts of the movie. And the
like
middle one basically is just weed. It says,
I love it. Good.
Hippie Delight.
Yeah, good.
One is Sweet Sewer Home. One is a Margarita Pizza. Incensed Rat, Radioactive Ooze, Hippie Delight, Foot Clan Dojo, Love Salve, Splinter's Magic, and Death by Trash.
I'm tempted to buy one. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love the Turtles. I absolutely love the Turtles. They're some of my favorites. Last night, it was my birthday yesterday. My girlfriend and I, we watched Batman and the Turtles, the animated movie.
I love that, especially when Mikey gets in the Batmobile.
Oh, that's movie.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's a really good film. Like, it's fun. You know.
Batman says, "Don't push any buttons," and then he gets to the point. He's like, "Push all the buttons."
And then Robin sees it and goes, I always wanted to push all the buttons.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a surprisingly good film.
I like when everybody disappeared on the Commissioner. And he's like, everybody's going.
Apart from Mikey.
I was like, I'm still here. That's great. Welcome to Turtles Cast, episode 1. I'm your host, Jared Albrecht, the art sale artist.
Yeah,
Joining me is Aaron Moss.
Yeah,
I haven't read.
it.
I haven't read.
Awesome.
Seen the turtle. I don't know who the turtles are. Sorry, I'm going to
Disavowing all knowledge of turtles.
You lie.
Just harass Jared. He never reads the book. So anyways, speaking of things Jared doesn't, let's go and get started back to the show. 1 second. What? Last, it's always in your sister's room. Oh, it's out here in the garage.
Oh, Jared's showing his face. He's done.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, should have been this guy in the movie. Just saying. Oh, or did he die?
Oh, who knows?
Well, maybe. Anyways, and welcome back to the show. Definitely check out that Comics for Courage and the other podcasts I aired commercials for. And let's go and talk about some G.I. Joe, the cartoon. This month, we are looking at the title. Try that again. This month, we're looking at the episode entitled "Eu de Cobra." Director was John Gibbs and Terry Lennon. Writer was Flint Dill. First aired November the 6th, 1985. The synopsis, which I pulled from Wikipedia. A thief disguised as a mummy steals an ancient Babylonian manuscript on secret potions from the British Museum. Meanwhile, Firefly invades a U.S. base in Antarctica and steals a rare botanical specimen. In the bayous of Louisiana, Zartan leads Cobra troopers on a search for the rare fungus. The object to create an irresistible perfume, a love potion to make the famous Greek shipping tycoon fall prey to the Baroness's wiles and put his entire fleet in Cobra's control. And that was Eu de Cobra. So let's go ahead and let's see. Does anyone have any notes on this thing? Notes. Jared.
Yes.
How you doing, Jared?
I'm out.
I got notes.
Jared,
my notes.
Go ahead and let's read some notes.
All right, Ode Cobra. Here we go. I wrote, okay, living mummies are cool. Mummy 1, flashlight 0. And then lights are definitely getting their ass kicked in this episode because he smashes like another light. Flint is living his best life up on that roof. Don't know if you guys noticed that. I know Kevin did. I know you noticed that, Kevin. He's hanging on the roof with like 2 ladies in bikinis. Like, what duty are you on? Don't
Flint ho.
Was he on booty duty?
There you go. I'm a huge fan of Firefly, and I need a mummy Firefly figure at this point.
There you go.
I wrote that Cobra sub is sweet. I like the Cobra sub.
Yeah.
Jackal's Bane was my nickname in college. That's not true. Oh man, Kevin, this is a Jared and Kevin show at this point. What is the deal with the parrot ratting them out like that?
I know. Effing Polly. What the hell? Jeez.
Stitches get stitches, Polly.
What? Yeah, I mean, it's like, what's with the no bro code there, Polly? Jesus.
Right?
Snitches get stitches, even if you're a parrot.
Tell me about it. I like the colorful take on was it called mantas? The little little wind surfboard things. Yeah, I had one of those as a kid, but these were like more colorful. I thought that was neat. I wrote down Flint sank like DiCaprio in the Titanic. This is going to be everyone's favorite note right here. I wrote a love potion for the Baroness. Seems unnecessary.
Unnecessary.
Good point. Very good point, actually. Yeah.
From the opposite redundancy.
I cannot get enough of the subplot of Short Fuse loving the rags. You know, the tabloid rags. That's like, we need someone who's in the know on this. They call Short Fuse. I mentioned earlier I need a Firefly as a mummy. I also need the orange scuba suit figures, which I think back in the 12-inch Joe days, they might have had that.
Yeah, they're very loud.
Yes. And they're very cool. I felt like the movie took a very 007 vibe with Flint coming up with the dinner jacket and Lady J coming up with the evening gown. You know, I'm a 007 guy, so that's big for me. Here's one that I know I'm usually silly with these, but this one actually piqued my interest. The Flint and Baroness romance. That echoes in the Devil's Due series when they get kidnapped together, and there's a lot of hints of like, oh, what did they do when they were kidnapped together in that series? And I thought, wow, this seed is planted.
I think we all know what they did.
Well, you know,
there wasn't him that was covering the Devil's Due run.
Yeah, I know some guys who covered the Devil's Due run, Long Box Crusade, G.I. Joe Chronicles, Devil's Due years. Destro's face in the metal tray after he gets smacked with it was definitely a highlight, I thought.
Yes.
I wrote down overall this episode is just like the movie Thunderball, except instead of nuclear bombs, it's a bottle of perfume, which is interesting. I also need dinner jacket Flint and evening gown Lady J figures. Need that to happen. And my final note says, and I kind of want to pass this around. I'm going to take over your show for a second, Aaron.
I'm used to it.
This perfume entices any man who smells it. So what do you think it smells like? And I'll kick it off and say, I think it smells like bacon.
Bacon! Yes! Bacon!
Nice. All right, so Kevin and I are on lockstep. Does anybody, Dave, Aaron, do you guys have any thoughts on what it might smell like other than bacon, which Kevin and I clearly are sharing?
I would think bacon and old books.
Old books? I like that. What do you think, Dave?
I'm just wondering, like, every time Jared said, I need this figure from this cartoon, like, how many freaking figures would he have?
Yeah,
and I'm with you.
Hundreds.
I am with you.
I'm thinking it smells like corn fritters and coffee, and then I'd just be like, maybe that's just where I am mentally right now, because I'd just be like, Baroness, you had me at hello. She's like, she reveals she's in this massive terrorist organization. I'd be like, that's fine.
That's fine. Cool. So what are you doing this weekend?
We've all got our that's fine. We've all got our
You get time off from the terrorist organization? Anyway, your show again, Aaron. Thank you for indulging.
Oh, thank you for letting me have the show back. Kevin, do you have thoughts? Oh, you have more notes. Never mind.
Yes.
Notes.
Yes. Okay, so Firefly disguised as a Firefly mummy, and I agree with Jared. That would be a cool figure to have. Stole the Jackal's Bane, and then I would realize, man, that'd be a really cool like hair metal name from the 80s. And I realized, wait a minute, no wait, I've actually seen the band Jackal. You know, the one that uses the lumberjack song with the chainsaw. But that's just a cool name, Jackal's Bane. I like how even the guards have laser guns. Just laser guns. I think that's interesting. And when Firefly starts to shoot everything in the office, I notice that he shot everything except, and then the camera pans over, there's a coffee pot. I'm waiting for it to go. Oh, yeah, they're going to destroy the coffee pot. And he doesn't destroy the coffee pot. If you're going to destroy something in the office to annoy anyone, destroy the coffee pot. But didn't do it.
I think some dude later on mentioned, like, he's like, at least he didn't shoot the coffee pot.
Yeah. And I love that the Snow Joes, all the Snow Joes are put to work in this one. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yes.
Breaker says, Flint, I've got a fix on the sub. It's headed to Madagascar. Flint goes, but I think I know where to find out. Lady J, Madagascar. You mentioned this, and I want to highlight this, that Cobra sub hideout was pretty cool. I got like Raiders of the Lost Ark vibes with it, but that thing that Cobra, I don't know if that was just like the Cobra conning tower of whatever the sub was, but that was pretty cool. I'd like to know what the rest of that vehicle looked like. Since when does Firefly don't like people using his name? Like, you know, I mean, don't you want to be feared? Like, oh no, not Firefly. And yes, Flint and Lady J attack with Mantis surfboards. Now, I guess that's so they can be quiet coming in there. It didn't last for long, but looked freaking cool. I thought that was funny. And Flint and Lady J were dressed to kill. I love that. Yes, the kind of a James Bond vibe there. And Flint goes, even Cobra can't ruin your look. And I have written down here, they should bang. Just like that. Flint and the Baroness flirting together. Baroness, of course, looking very, very good. And then I wrote, they should bang.
I've sensed in a theme.
I love how Cobra Commander was teasing Destro after falling into the sea with Flint. I mean, pretty much went, ha 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 ha. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Should they bang or?
Yeah. And what's the guy's name? The Socrates Aretes, the rich guy with the yacht. I'm just gonna call him Socrates Dude. Sounds a lot like Antonio Banderas. Anyone else think that?
Oh, good catch. Good catch.
I just thought it was funny that the MacGuffin is this perfume. Everyone is fighting for this perfume. And remind me, didn't we recently have an episode? Okay, so this perfume basically makes men fall in love with women. Wasn't there a conch or something that the Baroness blew? That all of the men were useless, and you got to see all of the female Cobra and Joe women step up. Interesting.
Yes.
Anyway,
And I just passed on a Baroness Blue the conch joke, just so everybody knows.
and the last thing I've got is the Baroness. Baroness gets away with style. She's doing like this on the back of the boat. She teases Flint as she does. They should bang. Just saying. That's all I got.
And to go back earlier when, Jared asked what the thing smells like, and both Kevin and Jared said bacon. They should bang.
Oh, we don't rule it out.
Dave, do you have thoughts on this episode?
My thoughts are brief because I did watch it a while ago, and it's more I'm remembering from what you guys are saying. I loved the concept. It's silly. I love the tone of the whole cartoon. The idea of Baroness seducing and flirting and seducing members of the team, I think is a cool idea. And I think that's something that I would explore more now in actually turning. You know what I mean? Like you could actually have a story arc where she did actually turn someone senior within the Joes. I think would be interesting. But I love the issue. The Snow Joes as well. I'm a big fan. When I watched this show, it really makes me. I mean, the purpose of the show was to sell toys. We all know that, and it makes me want to buy toys. It makes me want to collect classified figures and stuff. So the show's still doing its advertising work for Hasbro all these years later, which I think is a credit to the show. I find the show a lot of fun, and I did watch a bit of it at the time. As I said, I had a friend who was heavily into it, and I kind of caught the edges of his crazy obsession. And I always, as a kid, I never watched enough of it to really grasp it, and now watching it, I really enjoy it. It's so different from the comic to me. It feels like it's far more sort of cheesy and commercial, but it's good fun, and I put myself in the I think if you've got to view it through the lens of if you were sort of 10 to 12, how would you be reacting to this show? I think pretty positively.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's just a good episode with a neat concept, and it's tied together well. But for me, my fan fiction of the Baroness explodes in certain scenes of this episode for sure.
What do you mean by explodes?
Well, I'm a writer, and my imagination, I'm starting to write scripts, and there's a sexual component as well, if that's what you're alluding to. It's a separate conversation.
He wants to be.
Oh, definitely. Oh, that's, yeah, I mean, she had me at hello the first time I saw her. And, I just think what's amazing to me is that in 2023, we don't have, as far as I'm aware, anyway, we don't have a G.I. Joe cartoon on the air. If we do, I'm not aware of it. Because it just feels like there's so much potential, and they don't even have to, like, they could do it to tie into all their different toys and stuff. It feels to me like it'd be easier to do a cartoon than a live-action movie with G.I. Joe, because there's so much material, and you could pump out the episodes.
They can use AI.
I can say,
That's the thing I've had, that they don't have a cartoon. They don't have anything aimed really at kids.
Which is a mistake, I think. I think there's still room. I mean, if you look at kids' entertainment today, they're flooded with. It's not like they're not making cartoons for kids. They're making tons of them.
Oh, yeah.
There's tons of content being pumped out, And considering that I would say G.I. Joe has had a little bit of resurgence in mainstream popularity over the last few years, and there's definitely still a fan base, I would think a cartoon is the would be. I think you should always have a cartoon now. And can I do a spoilers for the Transformers movie, Aaron, or do you want to just leave that alone?
No, you can go ahead and throw spoilers in.
Well, I was gonna say the spoiler that there's the GI Joe linkage at the end. I almost think that's the perfect time to put a cartoon out so that kids can actually see that movie. Oh, what's GI Joe? Because I don't blame the kids for not knowing. And then there's cartoons, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's one thing I've complained about over my Bravo team is that there's not. I mean, the figures are aimed more at us older collectors. They're going to spend, $25-$30 a pop.
I wanted to bring something to the table, if you don't mind. And it's kind of Baroness related. First of all, back to the live action films. I felt that the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, the best thing about that was Sienna Miller as the Baroness. But the other thing, too, is I've noticed that they seem to be going away from the original core Joes from when we first saw them in like the Mass Device and stuff. We're getting less Scarlet, more Lady J, less Duke, more Flint. Of course, we have the Baroness in there by default because she's really the main Cobra female in this. But I'm kind of noticing this because this is getting still season 1. This came out in '85, and I think they did a similar thing with the G.I. Joe movie as well. But I'm noticing kind of a transition here that we're seeing less of certain Joes, more of this second wave and the smattering of some of these new characters and such.
Yeah.
I've got a comment. To me, and again, I'm coming in to the party like 30 years late, I find Scarlet so much more interesting than Lady J. Lady J to me is very boring, but I haven't seen a ton of her. But I just think Scarlet's one of the best characters in G.I. Joe. You know?
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the Scarlet or Lady J is kind of compared to the Duke versus Flint debate. Who do you prefer best?
I've got to be honest, in the comics, I sound like such a Philistine. I sometimes find it hard to work out if it's Duke or Flint because they've both got the same hair color in the comics.
Oh, no,
am I right?
Duke and Hawk.
I think they just color it differently depending on
Hawk. Is it a Hawk? Yeah.
Duke and Hawk ones that look alike.
Sorry, it's Duke and Hawk. I seriously get them confused. But one thing I love in the comics is they say their name a lot.
Yeah.
So if you notice in the comic, when they talk to each other, they always say their name. I find that really helpful because I'm like, oh yeah, that's this guy, that's this guy, that's this guy. Like, I love that. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry from the 80s. You've been very helpful for me.
I think we go back to with Stan Lee used to always say, every comic can be someone's first. So I think Larry's
Stan.
That's in mind. So very much so.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you, Larry. If I get Larry on Signal, I'll thank him for that. Thank you for saying the names, Larry. It helps. Because you've got to understand, for people coming to G.I. Joe, I think actually, I always felt it felt very overwhelming to get into. Because from a distance, it feels like there's just thousands. But then when you start reading the comic, he builds it so that you can actually keep track of it.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the one thing we always compliment Larry on here is the fact that he takes all these Hasbro hands him all these toys and figures. Okay, put these in your book, and Larry work and he brings them in and makes you care for them for the most part, and he does a good job of bringing new characters in, phasing old characters out. So, and
have you covered that? They've now signed with Image with Skybound. It's been revealed.
We haven't talked about it on here, but I've mentioned it on the Facebook group.
Okay, cool. That's really cool. That's great news.
From Image / Skybound. Transformers comes out in October, and G.I. Joe 301 comes out in November. If I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's great news because we need the G.I. Joe comic out there.
And there's a book out currently. I forget the name of it. It's the first
Void Rivals.
Thank you. Void Rivals. It actually has Transformers showing up in it.
It has one of the most gratuitous placements of a Transformer I've ever read in a comic. Literally, they meet Jetfire. He goes, "I'm a Transformer from Cybertron, blah, blah, blah. I've got to fly away now," and then flies away. You're like,
Yes,
thanks,
I don't know.
Thanks,
Cheap
Jetfire.
minutes. But yeah, it's and yeah, there are rumors that they're going to do more of a shared universe with Transformers and GI Joe. So we'll see what happens. So, and I've got thoughts. First, I did pick this up at Dollar General or $5.
That's cool. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was.
Oh yeah.
There was Destro and Snake Eyes, but of course I had to go for the Baroness.
She's cool. How many? You know, when you go to these cons, like these GI, isn't the GI Joe con? What's it called? GI Joe Celebration or something, or what's it called?
Joe Fest is the new one going now. Yeah.
How many Baronesses are cosplaying? Quite a few.
Oh yeah, that's always a few.
Good. Yep. I might turn up the next one.
I did Joe Fest like 2 years ago. I think there was a good 3 or 4, maybe 5 Baronesses there. I don't know. I lost count before they asked me to leave.
Hey, what happens?
That 7 minutes I was there, though, was incredible.
7 minutes was just some of the best times of your life.
Okay, moving away from Jared's arrest record that he's talking about. My notes on this and thoughts, and some of these are just random thoughts I had. My first thought is, who's your mummy? Next one's just Trouble Bubble. Again, I can't wait for the classified Trouble Bubbles to be released.
Oh, I saw it on the card. I specifically didn't put it in my notes because I was like, he's gonna want that one.
I pre-ordered 2 of them, so
I'm getting a couple as well. That's cool.
Hang on a second, Jared. All right.
So is that an original one?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I still got mine. I gotta get mine unboxed and put back on my shelf.
That's awesome, dude. Wow.
Very nice.
Yeah, all right. Right on. Right on.
Being flown by the beautiful Baroness. Good job, Kevin.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, I love Shipwreck and Polly. I've got that on pre-order from Hasbro Pulse. Yeah, as someone else has mentioned, do not use my name. When Firefly is talking to Cobra Commander, I'm not quite sure why he wants his name to be. It's not like he's say, he's talking, hey, Fred, what's going on? I don't know. When Flint and Lady J was in the water, and Flint's like, it was either the tablet or me. Tough choice. Shows where her thinking's at. And again, you guys have mentioned this. I don't know if the Baroness really needed that perfume, especially if that dress she had on.
They should bang.
They should. I should. I mean, I said I was going another direction. What?
I'm just leaving that joke alone. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if that perfume
I stayed on mute.
And Cobra Commander seems really surprised that two Cobra Troopers couldn't take out 2 of G.I. Joe's finest. He seemed surprised when, what, they can't take, you expect 2 regular troopers to take out 2 Joes? What the hell is your problem? Make your mask on a little too tight there, buddy. Again, another plan ruined by Cobra Commander's people screwing up. If Destro hadn't interfered, Flint may have disposed of Lady J and saved them all some trouble. And they may have actually won this, Again, this wasn't a bad idea. It's just Cobra Commander's people screwed it up, as they want to do. And as someone, maybe it was Jared had mentioned, I love that when Flint hit Destro with the platter, it left an indent of Destro's face. Beautiful.
It's like a fraction of a second, but it's like
I saw it and loved it.
Great.
Back to 2 Cobra guards not be able to take on Flint and Lady J. 3 security guards were able to get the drop on Flint. I don't know if I buy that or not, but just me. I love the comically large net that they nabbed Destro with when they're throwing him off. I just love that net.
Like right out of Scooby-Doo.
Yes, I love it. Hey, what the hell? Oh, God.
When you watch the beginning of these cartoons, though, they have that whole intro, and Destro gets thrown around like a rag doll between like 14 Joes. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah, I love that, too. I just love the large net they got. I have 2 questions. I don't know, maybe this is something that our military authenticity guy can answer.
Yes, I'll see what I can do.
First question is, where did the Baroness hide 2 rubber masks in? There wasn't a lot of hiding room in that dry.
I plead the fifth.
I see.
She's in her cleavage, like, boom.
I don't know if there's enough room in there for that.
Have you looked? Come on.
Oh, I
Come
would.
on, man.
That's why
There's plenty of room.
I was looking. I didn't notice them.
Bit of extra padding.
And
You know.
follow-up question related to that, more importantly, where did she have her Cobra suit at?
Fifth.
Again, I was looking. I mean, I was looking.
You'd have to ask her. Get her on the show.
And finally, my last comment in here is just a quote. I think I should remain a bachelor.
I got a question for you, though. If you're already horny for Baroness and she sprays you with that perfume, can you imagine how extra horny you'd be?
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine it, and I kind of want it, and I'd be up on charges probably, but look.
Like, is that a bad thing?
It could just, I mean, I don't
Baroness, you don't really need that.
If Baroness starts spraying that stuff around, it could just turn into an orgy. And the whole thing could just run off the rails really quickly, and I don't know who wins or loses then, but it
sounds
happens.
Like something being filmed out of San Fernando Valley right now. So,
yeah, and then so everyone wakes up a day later and just goes, well, you know what, let's call this one a draw.
You throw off the rails. And thanks, Jared. No. I'm being quiet.
I was on mute.
That's why I was blaming you. But anyways, those were my thoughts on this episode of G.I. Joe. Unless you guys have any follow-up thoughts on either the episode and the episode or the issue, I guess we're going to call it a draw here, call it a day here. Let's go ahead and take Kevin. There you are. If people want to hear more from you, where can they go?
You can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network. We're on YouTube, Fandom Podcast Network. If you subscribe there, we'd appreciate it. Our audio podcaster at fpnet.podbean.com. And at the Fandom Podcast Network, we've got a bunch of really cool podcasts under the umbrella, including Star Wars, Star Trek, Highlander, movies, TV series, Doctor Who. You name it, we cover it. So make sure you check it out. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Spartan_Phoenix.
Very nice. And the art cell jar artist guy thing with Jigger. If people hear more from you. Whoa there.
Well, if you want to hear me podcasting, I do most of my podcasting on the Long Box Crusade Network. And we can be found on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all your podcatchers. Just check out Long Box Crusade. Or if you want to hear the James Bond stuff, check out On Her Majesty's Secret Podcast. Now,
speaking of, is that a picture of Timothy Dalton behind you?
Autographed.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Autographed.
Nice.
Autographed.
Nice.
They're all autographed. Every picture you see back here is autographed.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's cool.
But I'm a Timothy Dalton fan for Bond. So yeah.
I know Dave loves Lazenby. So
good on him. Hey, George Lazenby, pull one out. Yeah, what a genius he was. One good movie in him, Heck
yeah. Anyways, I'm at Yard Sale Artist. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, it's all at Yard Sale Artist. And hey, specifically about G.I. Joe, we do cover, we just finished covering the first run of all the Devil's Due run over on Long Box Crusade. So check out G.I. Joe Chronicles over on Long Box Crusade. And there's more to come. We got more G.I. Joe content on the way, which goes nicely with this show and what Aaron does.
And Dave, if someone wants to hear more about you, where can they?
I'm awake. Well, you can generally find me on the street corner. That's often where I'm found.
That's right.
That's
you're surfing in Manly Beach. That's what you're doing.
Surfing in Manly Beach. Yeah. Anything for $1 is my motto. Look, Signal of Doom is a weekly podcast that we run, and we've got a couple of offshoot shows from that, like one about Dread or Dead, about Judge Dredd, and Legion Outpost. But Signal of Doom's the main show. I do want to say thank you very much for having me on, and I am very impressed by everyone's, whatever the word is, decorations. Like that James Bond stuff looks awesome, and Kevin, what you've got going on there, I'm impressed by, and obviously Aaron. I have a blank room, we've just moved, and apologies for looking half dead today, but it's going to look a bit better in 2 hours, but not that much better. So it's not really the end of the world. And next time, Aaron, if you could get, I'm pitching ideas, get a Baroness cosplayer on the show dressed as Baroness, and I am there, my friend. I don't care what time it is in Australia. You know?
There you go. And for me, I've been running a bit behind the last few months, but I do have my Headcast network. I have this show. Again, as we talked about earlier, I forget if that was on the show or if that was pre-show. I am going to start doing the special missions every other month over on Bravo Team. Again, I talked about doing it on the main show, but again, Kevin wisely talked me out of that insanity. So we don't have a 5-hour show. So every other episode, Bravo Team will be focusing on the special missions book. That probably this next episode of Bravo Team, after you hear this, will be Bravo Special Missions number 1. And I've got the rest of my shows. I got my Head Speaks, which is mainly anything comic related I want to talk about or anything geeky. I'm currently in the middle of the Power of the Atom run, which I'm loving. Then I have Task Force X, which I'm talking about Suicide Squad, the comic from the late 80s. And then the Starman Adventure Show, where I'm talking about the Will Payton Starman book. I'm coming up nearest end of that one. And then the wife and I have the Starbright Project, which has been going through some changes. Originally, it was me and her. Sorry, Mrs. Welp. Her and I, and another friend from Australia, Hayden McQueenie, talking about the original Quantum Leap TV show. Me and Hayden haven't seen it a million times, and this will be Michelle's first. And then they started the new series, and so we switched over to that. We're all new at it. Michelle's not liking that one as much, so I'm not quite sure what we're doing at this point. I've got a bunch of record I'm going to put out still, but I'm still working on the format of that show at this point. It's gone through changes. And there's also Voyager's Cast. No, it's not Star Trek. It's the 1982 Voyager's TV series about a time traveler. A great show. We're nearing the end of that one also. So definitely check those out. They're all on the Headcast Network. The Facebook page for this show is facebook.com/group/GI Joe. And the main show is facebook.com/group/Headcast Network. Definitely check that out. But that's going to do it for this month of G.I. Joe. Join us next month when we look at issue 52 and whichever episode of the cartoon that we're looking at. Again, I wasn't smart.
Cobra Claws are coming to town.
There you go. Thank you. One of you guys. Thank you, Kevin. Cobra Claws are coming to town. Until next month, remember, knowing is half the battle. Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Oh, Joe.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Always a pleasure to talk to you guys about G.I. Joe. Glad you could get on, Dave, again.
No worries, man. Thank you.
Team. You got part of
Good
them
to see you, Dave.
Yeah, good to see you guys. And Jared, very impressed with that art there that you did during the show.
Thank you, Dave. It was really nice meeting you. Thanks for sharing your very early morning for this show.
No problems at all, man. I'm off to